2020 regular board. We live and go to school in a city that is the ancestral homeland to the Duwamish people, the Muckleshoot Nation, and the Suquamish Nation. We acknowledge them as custodians of this land since time immemorial. As guests, and in many of our cases as settlers on this land, we extend our deepest gratitude and respect to their ancestors and elders, past, present, and future. Ms. Wilson-Jones, will you?
Director Hampson?
Here.
Director Harris?
Here.
Director Hersey?
Here.
Director Mack?
Here.
Director Rankin?
Here.
Director Rivera-Smith?
Here.
Director DeWolf?
Here. Okay. Superintendent Junot is also joining us for today's meeting, and additional staff will be briefing the board as we move through the agenda. This meeting is being held electronically, consistent with the Governor's March 24th, 2020 proclamation, prohibiting meetings such as this one from being held in person. And I'll note that members of the public may also be joining via phone or online streaming. I will not be asking members of the public to identify themselves, but thank you genuinely for joining us today. As stated on the agenda, there will not be a public comment opportunity today per the board's March 11th, 2020 vote to waive relevant provisions of Board Policy 1430 and Board Procedure 1430 BP, as well as Board Resolution 2019/20-29. Public comments are always invited via email to the board, by fax, and by mail, as stated on the agenda. To facilitate this meeting, I will ask all participants to ensure you are muted when you are not speaking. Staff may be muting participants to address feedback and ensure we can hear directors and staff. And now I will turn it over to Superintendent Junot for her comments.
Okay, thank you all so much, and appreciate you all continuing the work as we need to throughout this crisis. I just want to give a little COVID response update. As you all are aware, Governor Inslee announced there will be no in-person school for the remainder of the year, and we had been sort of assuming that would happen, so a lot of plans have been being put into place, and we will continue Seattle Public Schools to grow and refine our remote learning over this period of time through until we're out of school. We'll roll out devices to seniors as early as this week. I think that is planned for starting tomorrow. So that's exciting. We still have a number of decisions I know that are top of mind for our families and students and us as well, like graduation, grades, credit earning, and just learning in general, like how is that all going to work with everybody being at home as well. And so a lot of those still to be worked out and communicated out to the community as we create those details. But know that we will figure this out. We will build a strong system that is grounded on our values and is mission driven through our strategic plan. And so we will be always holding the service to our families and students furthest from educational justice, and particularly our African-American boys and young men. And so looking forward to continuing that work. During the closure, meal service, we are serving 5,000 meals a day across the city. And I think that's just a heroic lift by our nutrition services staff who have been working the beginning of this closure and have been on the front lines there, making sure that we're getting those meals and the basic needs out to families and students. We have 26 meal sites. We are starting to ramp up our bus route services, so trying to deliver meals on the bus routes across our city, and hopefully that will work and we can continue that effort. Working with Fair Start, and it might be starting very soon, but they're going to help with some dinner meal kits to be served alongside of at our meal sites with us. We still have the Backpack Brigade who's out in those areas as well, serving weekend meals to our families every Friday. And so thankful for our continued partnerships with people who are really still moving the needle with us. As our demand for meals is steadily growing, and there may be in the future an additional demand that we're not serving because of our mostly school-based approach to distribution. So we'll have to put some thought around what that looks like in the future. And we just need to be aware that at some point, even though we're good now with food service, this demand will outstrip our capacity. And so we'll have to be talking with partners about who could take on some of this load as weeks continue to pass. And we just need to think ahead so groups are ready to pick up the slack if we dial back on our efforts on June 19th. You also know that the governor, when he closed schools, asked schools to provide childcare. And so currently we have 16 sites with our community-based organizations. As you all know, that is our usual way of providing childcare. There are some districts across the state that do that direct service for childcare. We are not one of those. We work with our experts in the field and people who know how to do that business. And so we currently have 16 sites open. We provide the spaces for free. We provide the meals. We provide the cleaning services for those sites. We also have space to expand should there be determined to be a need in the future. And so we are open for CBOs to come and serve in those spaces. And as you know, our third big lift is remote learning, and that is what Seattle Public Schools does best, is teaching and learning. And so as we roll out into this new way of doing school and counting on our families as co-educators, we have rolled out learning expectations to our staff and families. Those can be found on our website. We also created, some of our principals stepped up and made some videos about what families should be expect to hear from teachers and them, and that is by the elementary level, the middle school level, and the high school level. So those can be found on our website as well. We will be working to make remote learning happen as robustly as possible. And of course, thinking ahead now to what summer programming might look like, rather than providing programming that is, we'll still have to do the interventions in the summer, but there may be a need to really lift up a more robust learning program in the summer for acceleration purposes. And then, of course, thinking forward to what do we look like in the fall, and how are we going to make sure that we are starting school. Especially, I think this is a real good opportunity for us to really think about how we might look in the future. We've had a strong strategic plan, and how do we make sure that when we reopen our buildings, that we are centering those students furthest from educational justice as we do that planning for reopening. Part of our remote learning is learning packets. Those are paper pencil packets that are distributed at our food sites, and those are aligned with our SPS TV efforts. Those learning packets are in hot demand. We distributed 12,000 just this week, and so those are getting used, and people really like them. And I think really because they are really great supplemental materials to have at home, and because then you can watch the lesson on SPS TV. We have over 60 of those videos now out on SPS TV. Those videos have received about 110,000 views since over the last month. And so those are really great supplements for families to use at home as they're figuring out alongside of us about how to approach that work at home. And as you know, there is also going to have to be a component of technology use and online learning, and just really thankful for our partners. And you saw yesterday that Amazon stepped up and donated 8,200 devices that we will use to fill some gaps at the elementary school level. Those devices will be sent directly to families as they are identified as not having a device at home. And so currently our teachers and counselors are working on creating that list, and we should be able to get those out pretty quickly, which is super exciting. We have a technology rollout plan. We're actually starting with rollout to seniors this week, and then we'll fill in with high school, and then middle school. We plan to have one-to-one devices at those levels. We are taking the laptop carts out of our schools where they currently are, and re-imaging them for use at the secondary level. And so just that takes a lot of time to get those set up for a different use than they were set up for. And so there's just going to have to be some patience as we roll out, but people have to know that there is a plan, that we are going to have one-to-one devices at those levels, and then hopefully Amazon can fill some of the gap that we may have at the elementary level. And so once we get those all distributed, as I said, we will be building a very robust program, and I know our teachers and staff are up for that challenge. And so that's all very exciting. The Alliance for Education, along as a partnership with us, has set up what's called an Education Equity Fund. And that is already off to a great start, of course, with Amazon's donation, but there have also been some significant other donors fill a gap, like with hotspots and other devices that we find may be necessary over time, or packet printing costs. And there are all kinds of things that we're going to have to think about as we continue this remote learning. And so the Education Equity Fund, you all should spread far and wide, because I think we've been asked by a lot of people about what they can do to help us. And this is one direct way that they can really step up and provide us some support. It's going to be a long road of remote learning, or a mix of instructional delivery. And so we'll continue to work all those different angles to make sure we're reaching as far and wide as we can. We know that looking at other schools that are rolling out some remote learning and online learning, like LA and New York City, there are a lot of kids that aren't, even though they have a device at home, aren't logging on and not being counted as attendance. And so there's just a lot of other background work that needs to happen to make sure that just because they have a device doesn't mean that they have access. And so just thinking deeply about all those kinds of equity issues. I mean, I've also heard from middle class parents who may have several devices at home, and they are also working from home, and just the struggle of finding time to get engaged online for their kids while they're also working, and what device time looks like. And so there's just a lot of different issues that we're all going to have to pull together to make sure we're doing the work together on all of this. And I mean, there's been tons of support since we closed as well. And I just want to give gratitude to so many in the community. Thanks to Amazon. Our elementary students furthest from educational justice will receive a device as early as next week. Thank you to our educators and to our technology team, DOTS, for capturing this data and moving so quickly. Thank you to the Alliance for Education for creating that special Education Equity Fund to support our students furthest from educational justice. Thank you to our custodians for cleaning our 26 meal sites and childcare sites and the buildings all across the city. Thank you to the providers, the childcare providers, who jumped in to support essential staff by standing up childcare at our 16 sites. Thank you to all of our educators across the system for having a growth mindset and for coming on this journey with us. Thank you to the bus drivers who are delivering food across the city. Thank you to our nutrition services staff who are preparing this food and making sure that it gets out into our sites. Thank you to payroll for getting everyone paid this month and in the months ahead. I just really also want to thank my leadership team and each of the central office teams that they are leading. They are doing humongous lifts as we continue to plow through this new era of remote learning. Thank you to all the families out there who are supporting your students to the best of your ability. I see you and I hear you and I appreciate you. I got on a citywide Seattle Council PTSA call last week, and I think I'll continue those because I think it's important to hear from families as we continue this effort. I want to thank our students for sticking with us and for being engaged. We made a call out to my student advisory board, and so it's important to know what students are thinking and what questions they may have, and so we'll be able to address that in the very near future. I want to thank directors DeWolf and Hampson for supporting all of this work, for communicating the great work we're doing to your colleagues and to everyone else who will listen. Those daily calls we have, I think, are really important for our communication as leadership in this district. And just a reminder that next week is spring break for Seattle Public Schools. We will be taking spring break. And I think it will actually be a good time for everyone just to take a collective breath and sort of recharge, have a little bit of time to think through what our schedules need to look like at home, what our schedules need to look like at the district, and just do at least a little bit of thinking about what it is. We're in this for the long haul, and I think it's important for everybody just to take a breath and think about what it is, and know that we're going to be in this, but when we work together, that I know that it's possible that we will get through this. These last few weeks have been trying for us as a people and as a system, a city, a nation, and even the world. But we will remain focused on our work in Seattle Public Schools. We will serve the academic and social emotional needs of our 53,000 students and our families to the best of our ability. We will not waver from our strategic plan, Seattle Excellence. I know that when this is over, and it will end eventually, we will be a stronger system and we'll be a stronger community because we did it together. And so just looking forward to forging this new path with all of you. And thank you, President DeWolf. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Superintendent Juneau. And just to reiterate the gratitude that we all have for all the folks that continue to serve and support Seattle Public Schools. So thank you. We have now reached the consent portion of today's agenda. So may I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move approval of the consent agenda. This is Director Hampson.
Approval of the consent agenda has been moved by Director Hampson and seconded by Director Harris. Thank you. Do directors have any items they would like to remove from the consent agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those
Aye.
opposed?
Aye, sorry.
Okay. Those opposed? Okay. The consent agenda has passed unanimously. So now we will move to the items on today's the action items on today's agenda. As we move through these items and later the introduction items, I will first call on committee chairs for items that move through the committee. Then I'll call on the remaining directors alphabetically for questions and comments. As indicated on the agenda, some of the action items were not first reviewed in committee due to public health related cancellations of some of the March committee meetings. We will now move to action item number 1. Approval of Families Education Preschool and Promise FEP levy funding for K through 12 school-based investments for the 2020-2021 through 2025 through 2026 school years. May I have a motion for this item?
Clarification, please.
Of course.
A point of inquiry, please. Director Harris here.
Director Harris.
I had the impression that there would be very significantly time-limited director report out. Where would that be on the agenda?
If you note on the end of the agenda, Director Harris, board comments are at the end of the agenda.
Got it. Thanks so very much.
This is Director Hampson. I move that the board authorize the superintendent to accept grant funds totaling up to $113,572,311 from the City of Seattle's Families Education Preschool and Promise Levy with any minor additions, deletions, and modifications deemed necessary by the superintendent, and to take any necessary actions and enter into service agreements to accept the grant funds.
Second the motion, Director Harris.
The item has been moved by Director Hampson and seconded by Director Harris. We will now move to directors for any comments or questions for Senior Advisor to the Superintendent, Sherry Cox, before we vote. So, Director Hampson.
Aye.
Do you have any questions or comments at this time?
I'm sorry. No,
No, that's okay.
I'm sorry. I thought we were.
Director Harris.
My usual, I am distressed that we continue from a cash flow perspective to operate as the city's bank when we have met every one of the criteria that the city has put in front of us for well over a decade.
Director Harris, this is Sherry Cox, Senior Advisor to Superintendent Juneau. I hear your concerns. I don't hear a question though for me to be answered. Is there a question in that?
There was comment and question. That is a comment for the record. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Harris. Director Hersey.
No questions at this time.
Thank you, Director Hersey. Director Mack.
Yes, thank you. I believe this question was asked by another director when it was introed. And I think we got a response that regarding the 2-year check-in and report to the board. I'm a little confused as to whether or not that's been formalized as something that will come to the board in a formal fashion every 2 years, or is there a formalized reporting check-in structure going forward?
Thank you, Director Mack, for your question. So in section 6 of the BAR, it does call out in the community engagement section that Deal has committed to providing an annual investment report to the school board.
Excellent. And so then from a logistical perspective, will that be reported to one of our committees or to the full board? How is that going to be presented to us?
That's a great question. I think I'm envisioning that it would go to the CAI committee for an update to that committee, although staff is open to a format. It could, if, for example, go to the executive committee with a written report in the Friday memo to the board.
From a logistical standpoint, it is my understanding that the reports to the board typically show up on the report calendar and it states how it's going to be presented. So I'm just wondering whether or not that needs to be added to that spreadsheet that Ellie manages and I think is approved every year by the executive committee.
I think those are dictated by policy, although I'm not opposed to it being an addendum to that.
From my perspective, it feels as if this is it'd be helpful to have that included in that calendar and stated as to how it's coming. Is it coming in just a email, or is it coming to the committee, and that sort of thing? Just be helpful. Thank you.
That's a great question, Director Mack. And I wonder too, Sherry, if maybe a superintendent comments, if potentially could also just come to the full board as a part of the superintendent comments during one of our meetings as well.
Yes, it certainly could be added similar to the updates on Native education or policy 2200 equitable access. There's a variety of ways that we could get the information to board directors.
Of course. Okay, thank you. Director, was that all your questions, Director Mack, or comments?
Yes, at this time, thank you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Director Rankin.
I do not have questions at this time.
Okay, Director Rivera-Smith.
I'm just following up on last meetings. I had a question regarding the panelists. I saw that those were not currently available, so I appreciate the response to that, though, and look forward to having that information.
That fulfills your question. That response back they got to you.
Well, it did. It just said that it wasn't available right now. That they were trying to contact those panelists to get permission to share their information, their names, I guess. So apparently that's just not available now. I understand everything's not as it
Upended.
used to be. So yes, I just look forward to hearing that when he said he would have it at a later time.
Of course.
Sorry, can I are you saying panelist?
Yeah,
Panelists, yes.
It was I'm sorry, I don't have the email in front of me.
It's called FEPS SBI Investments. And Director Rivera-Smith was asking who were the community panelists for the FEP SBI Investments. And they said that they couldn't get that to us because of COVID, but after it's over, they can continue that outreach.
Okay, thanks for
Get
the
permission.
clarification.
Yes. And I have no questions. Thank you to Deal for sending over answers to the questions from our last meeting. So now that we are at the end of the discussion, I will ask Ms. Wilson-Jones for the vote.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Rankin,
Aye.
Director Rivera-Smith,
Aye.
Director Hansen,
Aye.
Director Harris,
Aye.
Director Hersey,
Aye.
Director DeWolf.
Aye.
This motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move to action item number 2, approval of Families Education Preschool and Promise FEP levy funding for preschool services for the 2020-2021 school year. May I have a motion for this item?
This is Director Hampson. I move that the school board authorize the superintendent to accept FEP levy grant funds from the City of Seattle Department of Education and Early Learning deal totaling $7,300,000 for the 2020-21 school year to continue to operate 26 preschool classrooms and open 3 new Seattle preschool program classrooms, including SPP and full day Head Start, and convert 1 existing SPP to SPP Plus and 1 Head Start to Head Start Plus for a total of 29 classrooms, with any minor additions, deletions, and modifications deemed necessary by the superintendent, and to take any necessary actions and enter into service agreements to accept the grant funds.
Second the motion, Director Harris.
Thank you. This item has been moved by Director Hampson and seconded by Director Harris. This item has been updated since introduction. Senior Advisor to the Superintendent, Sherry Cox, could you please?
Yes, the addition, the only change to the bar is the addition of the last attachment. It's a chart that has the current and proposed Seattle Public School preschool programs for 2019 through 2021 school years. And that's been the only change since intro, Director DeWolf.
Thank you. So now we will move to directors for any comments or questions before we move to the vote. So Director Hampson, take it away.
None for me at this time.
Thank you, Director Hampson. Director Harris.
I am encouraged that we have increased the number of inclusionary SPP or SPP Plus programs. I would still like for us to see a goal. If you have a goal, you can meet it. If you don't have a goal, it floats. That's a comment, not a question. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Harris. Director Hersey.
None for me at this time. Thank you.
Director Mack.
Express gratitude for the clarity around the numbers of students and sites and having that attached to the bar. Yeah, I appreciate that critical information being added. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Mack. Director Rankin.
I have a comment. I guess I want to echo what Director Harris mentioned with regards to inclusion. It is my firm belief that all sites should be inclusive, just depending on serving who shows up and providing them with the services they need, instead of treating access for special education students like a limited quantity. And that's something that I feel strongly about throughout the whole our K-12 system as well. But to Director Harris's point about having goals, I'm still kind of fuzzy on how we ensure access for students who receive special education services, and how we make sure that we're not excluding children, even though we do have SPP sites. So that comment, and something that will be hopefully continually on our radars, and that we can work with continue to work with the city to identify the funding streams necessary to accommodate students with disabilities.
Thank you. I just want to let you know that we are working towards inclusion at all of our sites. It's about balancing our seats, it's about funding, and it's about space availability. So thank you, Director Rankin, for highlighting that. And our priority is our 4-year-olds, getting them school ready.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. And thank you, Director Rankin. Do you have any more comments or questions?
Nope, not right now.
Awesome. Okay. Director Rankin, Director Rivera Smith. Not Rankin Smith.
Nope, and that's great. Nope, Sherry took the words out of my mouth. We definitely, I know early learning is working towards an inclusive model for sites, and I thank the city for their support and those efforts we have. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Rivera. I just wanted to again express gratitude to our City of Seattle partners and Deal, and also the voters for voting for this levy. It's very, very meaningful for students and young people in communities across the city. So thank you to the voters for that, and thank you to Deal and the City of Seattle. And also thank you, directors, for continuing to really help. So, Ms. Wilson-Jones, take it away for the vote.
Director Rankin.
I'm surprised to be the first one. Sorry. Aye.
Director Rivera Smith.
Aye.
Director Hansen.
Aye.
Director Harris.
Aye.
Director Hersey.
Aye.
Director Mack.
Aye.
Director DeWolf.
Aye.
This motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you. Okay, we will now move to action item number 3, Memorandum of Understanding, the Seattle Education Association regarding Teacher Principal Evaluation Program, otherwise known as TPEP. May I have a motion for this item?
I move that the school board authorize the superintendent to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Seattle Education Association to replace the previous 4-year cycle for comprehensive evaluations of certificated employees with continuing status as outlined in Article 11, Section C4 and G1 of the collective bargaining agreement to every 6 years.
This is Clover.
Do
Please
I have,
let me know if you have any questions?
Second.
do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you,
Director
Director Harris. This item has been moved by Director Hampson and seconded by Director Harris. So now we'll move to directors for any comments or questions for Chief Human Resources Officer Dr. Clover Codd before we vote. So, Director Hampson, do you have any questions or comments on item number 3 for Dr. Clover Codd?
None at this time.
Thank you, Director Hampson. Director Harris.
I'm just wondering, do we reset the clock given COVID-19 and those teachers that are up for review?
Director Harris, we are putting out actually today guidance on how to proceed with TPEP evaluations for certificated teachers. So not necessarily. There's a bunch of different scenarios. It really depends on how much observation, artifacts, and evidence have already been collected by principals and assistant principals up to the point of school closure. So not necessarily just a redo. Some will move forward and some will not be able to be completed because there's not enough evidence, and others will be considered proficient because there's not enough evidence to lower their rating.
But my question is, do we restart the clock next year in terms of the stair step, or do we continue these until next year?
We will not reset any clocks.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, Director Harris?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome. Director Hersey.
None for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Hersey. Director Mack.
Sorry, apologies. Just kind of gathering my thoughts. I think I want to tack on to Director Harris's question around, I mean, what is the impact of the current situation, the COVID crisis, and our distance learning? The expectation on educators and evaluating that. Can you give a little bit more clarity around the guidance that's coming out?
Sure.
Or that will be coming out, so that we have a sense of what does this actually mean in the current environment, and this, you know, the fact that we're going to be doing distance learning for quite a while.
And Dr. Codd, I just want to break in here to say that traditionally, I for sure want to make sure that questions are specific to the items. So given that we're kind of in this crisis, I think it is germane to be able to answer that, Dr. Codd, but I think generally that would be a question that wouldn't be specifically focused on the action item at hand. So, but I understand we're in a unique situation. So,
sure. So here's what I would say. I would say, yes, first and foremost, this bar does not impact anything related. COVID does not impact this bar whatsoever, and this bar does not change. Nothing in here changes as a result of COVID and school closures. I will send the board a preview of the communication that will be going out to all teachers and all principals and assistant principals with respect to guidance around evaluation. We're following the guidance of OSPI. So OSPI put out their own guidance with respect to how to handle TPEP evaluations moving forward. We're taking that guidance on and we've put it into our own words, but I will send that to you all momentarily.
Thank you.
Dr. Codd. Any more questions or comments, Director Mack? Dr. Mack.
No, thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Director Mack. Director Rankin.
I do not have questions at this time.
Director Rivera Smith.
And none for me, thank you.
And Dr. Cott, I have no questions at this time as well. So seeing no further questions or comments, Ms. Wilson-Jones, please call the vote.
Director Rivera-Smith,
Aye.
Director Hampson,
Aye.
Director Harris,
Aye.
Director Hersey,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Rankin,
Aye.
Director DeWolf.
Aye.
This motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson-Jones. We will now move to action item number 4, BTA for replacement of non-functional audio-visual AV equipment in schools and addition of AV equipment in new schools and capacity classrooms. May I have a motion for this item?
I move that the school board authorize the superintendent to execute purchase orders through bid number B11927 with Troxel. Sorry. Dropped at Troxel. For a not to exceed amount of $1,100,000 plus Washington State sales tax over fiscal years 2019 to 20 through 2021 to 22, with any minor additions, deletions, and modifications deemed necessary by the superintendent. This is Director Hampson.
Second the motion, Director Harris.
The item has been moved by Hampson and seconded by Director Harris. We'll now move to directors for any comments or questions for Chief Financial Officer Jolynn Berge before we vote. So let's start with Director Hampson. Any questions or comments for Chief Berge?
I just appreciate this motion. I think it's critical to our classroom functioning. I know we're not in the classroom right now, but when we get back, that it's difficult to imagine a functioning classroom without effective or functioning audiovisual equipment. And my understanding is that this will be replaced over a period of 2 years.
That's correct.
That's it
Thank
for
you,
me.
Director Hampson. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Director Harris.
I am extremely leery about the additional costs that are being foisted upon us, unfunded mandates from the state, etc. But replacement of deficient equipment is really critical because it's an equity issue and we got to suck it up. But I'm thinking that if Jolynn Berge, our CFO, had issues with this, she would state same. So that's the question to Jolynn Berge. Do we have the money to do this?
Thank you, Director Harris. Yes, or we wouldn't be putting it forward. So I'll just restate the title of the bar is really about AV equipment that we need in school classrooms that are opening in the fall, in our capacity classrooms that we're opening in the fall, and for things that break.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Harris. Okay, next up is Director Hersey.
That we're taking care of this. I mean, as a person who was dealing with some pretty outdated equipment last year, it makes a complete difference in the educational experience of our children. So I'm just excited that this is moving forward. I have no further questions at this time.
Thank you, Director Hersey. Director Mack.
No questions at this time.
Thank you, Director Mack. Director Rankin.
No, I do not have questions, although I just will comment that this is great because I know this was a topic of a lot of conversation at my kids' elementary school a couple of years ago, and it just makes a huge difference classroom to classroom how teachers can do what they need to do and be able to teach. You know, our classroom, we don't have chalkboards, we don't have whiteboards, anymore. And so teachers are heavily dependent on getting information in front of all of their students' eyes and faces and ears with this equipment. So, yay. That's it.
Thank you, Director Rankin. And I'm sure we do have some whiteboards and chalkboards. I don't want to make it seem like we don't have any.
Sorry.
There are some in our classrooms.
Yes, but I guess my point was, people might think, oh, this seems extra. Why are we doing this when they can just use chalkboards or whiteboards or whatever? And in some classrooms, we don't have those anymore. That this isn't, I guess I was trying to say this, to me, this is a 21st century basic utility in our classroom, as opposed to, audio visual could sound like, extra or fancy technical equipment or something, but it's actually like how teachers put information up for kids nowadays, and it does make a big difference when some classrooms have them and some don't.
Absolutely. Thanks, Director Rankin. Director Vera Smith.
Yeah, just a quick reference to the reports claim about, obvious, it's a true statement that students who struggle to hear and comprehend words due to hearing loss or other issues often suffer from delayed speech and language skills, lower grades, etc. So were any of these funds going to be used to support the deaf and hard of hearing community, such as providing ASL interpreters? Was there any, I'm not sure that this would fall, AV equipment falls into ASL interpretation, but was that a consideration?
No, it was not. Your previous statement's correct. It would not fall into this category.
Understood. I guess I will inquire later, I guess, how we are supporting that need then outside of the AV equipment. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Vera Smith. And I have no questions at this time. So, Ms. Wilson-Jones, you can call the vote.
Director Hampson?
Aye.
Director Harris?
Aye.
Director Hersey?
Aye.
Director Mack?
Aye.
Director Rankin?
Aye.
Director Rivera Smith?
Aye.
Director DeWolf?
Aye.
This motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you, directors. We will now move to action item number 5, BEX 5, award contract P1710 for construction project management services to Parametrics for the Rainier Beach High School replacement project. This came through Ops on March 12th for approval. May I have a motion for this item?
I move that the school board authorize the superintendent to execute contract P1710 for construction project management services with Parametrics in the amount of $93, including reimbursable expenses with any minor additions, deletions, and modifications deemed necessary by the superintendent, and to take any necessary actions to implement the contract.
Second the motion, Harris.
The item has been moved by Director Hampson and seconded by Director Harris. We'll now move to directors for any comments or questions for Chief Operations Officer Fred Podesta before we vote. I'm going to start by calling on directors and starting with our Operations Committee Chair, Director Mack, first. Director Mack, take it away.
Thank you. This is exciting to take action on today. This is the start of the really important work of remodeling, replacing Rainier Beach. We brought it through committee, had discussion around the entire action, as well as recommended it for approval and not just consideration. We all felt very comfortable with recommending this forward. I know that in the community, there's lots of questions and concerns around the engagement, around the design and various aspects. And I just wanted to let folks know that in our operations committee meeting tomorrow, that is an item on the agenda to get an update about that community engagement process that will be going on. So just for everyone's information, that will be talked about in our operations committee meeting tomorrow. And other than that, I don't have any other questions.
Director Hanson.
Uh,
I think you may have cut out.
just happy to see this moving forward. No further questions.
Thank you, Director Hampson. Director Harris.
Could not be more pleased to see this moving forward. And if we could go faster, I would be in favor of staying. Thank you. This community has waited long enough.
Thank you, Director Harris. Director Hersey.
No questions for me. Again, just excited. I know that a lot of students are going to be really appreciative of this new space to continue their educational careers. I do have questions around the community engagement piece, but I will hold those for our committee meeting tomorrow.
Awesome. Thank you, Director Hersey. Director Rankin.
No questions. I am also really excited to see this move forward. But I did want to take a second to address question that has come to the board about why a rebuild or addition instead of a retrofitting the existing building. And I just wanted to say that the overwhelming advocacy and sentiment from the students and the community around Rainier Beach High School has been that they want a new school, and that doing a rebuild is also, or a retrofit of an existing building is not necessarily more cost effective, and that the community is asking for a new building, and they deserve a state-of-the-art modern facility to learn in, and I'm excited that we're heading in that direction.
Thank you, Director Rankin. Director Vera Smith.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Vera Smith. And mine again are just about gratitude, and also similar to expressing similar to Director Harris. Really excited to see that this work continues to move forward. I know that the community will be really excited about it, but even more so, I know that our voters who voted for our BEX 5 levy in February of 2019 will also be happy to see that we continue to do the work that was promised when they voted on that levy. And so really excited for that community to get their new facility. So thank you. Ms. Wilson-Jones, go ahead and call the vote.
Director Harris.
Aye.
Director Hersey.
Aye.
Director Mack.
Aye.
Director Rankin.
Aye.
Director Rivera Smith.
Aye.
Director Hampson.
Aye.
Director DeWolf.
Aye.
This motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you, everybody. Okay, we will now move to action item number 6, Distressed School Grant / BEX 4 Program Contingency, approval of construction contract P5134 for bid number B11925 to CDK Construction Services, Inc., and the use of BEX 4 program contingency funds for the Magnolia Elementary School Addition project. This came through Operations Committee on March 12th for approval. May I have a motion for this item?
This is Director Hampson. I move that the school board, A, authorize the superintendent to execute construction contract P5134 with CDK Construction Services, Inc. in the amount of $4,332,998 plus Washington State sales tax with any minor additions, deletions, and modifications deemed necessary by the superintendent, and to take any necessary actions to implement the contract, and B, approve a one-time fund transfer of $2 million from the BEX 4 program contingency funds to the Magnolia Elementary School addition project.
Second the motion, Harris.
Okay. The item has been moved by Director Hampson and seconded by Director Harris. We'll move now to directors for any comments or questions for Chief Podesta before we vote. So again, I'll start with our Operations Committee Chair, Director Mack, with any comments or questions.
This is Director Mack. No questions at this time. Again, this moved forward for approval on our recommendation. Excited to continue moving this work forward and grateful for the state assistance on increasing capacity needs. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Mack. Director Hampson.
No questions from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Harris.
No questions from Director Harris. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Harris. Director Hersey.
No questions from me. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Director Rankin.
No questions. Thank you.
Director Rivera-Smith.
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And I have none at this time as well. So, Ms. Wilson-Jones, please call the vote.
Director Hersey,
Aye.
Director Mack,
Aye.
Director Rankin,
Aye.
Director Rivera-Smith,
Aye.
Director Hampson,
Aye.
Director Harris,
Aye.
Director DeWolf.
Aye.
This motion has passed unanimously.
Thank you. We will now move to introduction item number 1, BTA 3, approval of budget transfer from BTA 3 program contingency and award construction contract K5118 bid number B012038 to Good News Group Inc. for the Adams Elementary School Fire Sprinkler Upgrades Project. This came through the Operations Committee on March 24th for approval. Mr. Chief Podesta, I believe you will be briefing us today on this item.
Yes, good afternoon. Intro item 1 is a construction contract to make upgrades to the fire suppression system at Adams Elementary. The building was built in 1909, has had additions over the years in the 70s and the 80s, and the sprinkler system, the fire suppression system, has been kind of patched together over the decades and is in a condition where we need to make some upgrades and make sure that it's got consistent coverage over all of the building. And this was one of the last projects in BTA 3, and we've done the design and had a competitive process and are ready to award a contract and complete the work this summer. And that concludes my remarks.
Okay. Thank you, Chief Podesta. I'm going to hand this over to Director Mack, who is our Operations Chair, to lead us off in director comments and questions. So, Director Mack, it's you.
Just to reiterate what's already been stated, that this came to ops for approval, recommended for approval, and student safety is critical. Updating this system is super important, and grateful to have it moving forward.
Thank you, Director Mack. Okay, now we'll move to Director Hampson.
No questions from me, thank you.
Thank you, Director Hampson. Director Harris.
None from me, thank you.
Director Hersey.
None from me, thank you.
Thanks, Director Hersey. Director Rankin.
No questions, but I want to state, as I did when this item came before the Operations Committee, my appreciation of Mr. Podesta and team for diligence and follow through in making sure that all of these types of projects from previous BTA levies are getting completed, especially as it pertains to student safety. So thank you for that. That's all I have right now.
Thank you, Director Rankin. Director Rivera Smith.
No questions, thank you.
And Chief Podesta, I have no questions for you at this time as well. Okay, so we will now move to introduction item number 2, BEX 4, approval of budget transfer from the BEX 4 program contingency and award construction contract P5126, bid number B11832 to seismic improvements at Beacon Hill, Maple, and Whitworth Orca K-8 schools project. This came through the Operations Committee on March 24th for approval. Chief Podesta, I believe you'll be presenting to us again, so take it away.
Yes, again, this is a construction contract as part of BEX 4. As the board directors are aware, the district has, for the past few years, had an ongoing program of making seismic improvements in our buildings to increase student safety and conform with building codes as best as possible. And this contract will allow us to make relatively minor needed seismic improvements at 3 schools and be again prepared to complete the work over the summer and have this work done by the start of school. And it's fairly straightforward work. And that would conclude my remark.
Okay, so now I'll turn it over to directors for questions and comments. So let's start with Director Mack as the chair of the Operations Committee.
Yes, thank you. Gratitude to staff for continuing to move these items forward. Seismic improvement projects are really critical to the safety of our buildings and our students. And these, they also nicely do a little bit of a facelift when they're done in our buildings. So just excited that these are going to be moving forward and completed over the summer.
Thank you, Director Mack. Okay, Director Hinton, questions.
Did you say Director Hampson?
Yes, I did.
Okay, sorry, cut out for a second. No questions specific to this other than if you could just comment briefly on any concerns we have about this project or others moving forward, given governor's orders around construction. This is a critical project. I'm particularly concerned about earthquake retrofits in our buildings, or even like the prior one, the sprinkler system. It makes me nervous every day that we have kids in buildings that aren't seismically retrofit. And so I'm just curious if there have been any further updates, or maybe for the sake of the record to comment in relationship to this, how hopeful we are about getting to move this forward.
I think at this point, for smaller projects, we're relatively confident. The constraints that we've seen so far really relate to a number of workers at job sites for work that's going on now. It's a little hard to forecast what the summer is going to look like, but and the governor clarified his orders that, public works construction projects can go forward. We're working with our contractors to make sure that's done in a safe manner. And so the largest constraint has been where, job sites might need more than 50 workers. And is it possible really to do the kind of physical distancing required at all job sites? I will confess there's a certain amount of uncertainty if everything we have planned for this summer can actually happen, given that there's just dislocations in the marketplace. But we're prioritizing and trying to establish contingency plans. It certainly helps to go ahead and award contracts where we feel confident and keep things moving. I suspect come summer, we probably will have to make some adjustments, but it's hard to say exactly what those are at this point.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thanks, Director Hampson and Chief Podesta. Any other questions or comments, Director Hampson?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Director Hampson. Director Harris.
No questions, thanks.
Okay, Director C.
None from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Mack.
No additional questions. Thank you.
Director Mack.
No questions. Thanks.
Okay, Director Rivera Smith.
No questions. Sorry, I don't know if you heard me.
No. Okay, thank you. Just making sure. Just want to give you some time. And I have no questions about this item, Chief Podesta, but thank you. And you answered my question in Director Hampson's, so thank you. So we have now moved through the introduction item portion of the agenda. So we'll now move to the board comments section of the agenda. We'll move alphabetically. My only reminder is that this meeting needs to be done by 3 o'clock today for SPS TV programming. But as you noticed, we're at 2:07 with our scheduled time. So we'll move through the directors alphabetically for any comments you'd like to make. I would encourage you to keep them brief, but you are each individually your own elected person. So I will start with Director Hampson with any board comments.
Yeah, thank you. This is these are bizarre times and bizarre formats. And in that light, I think I'm just going to take a page from Director DeWolf's playbook and do some reading. One of the things that I have found most hopeful in addition to my neighbor's kid sidewalk talk, is the opportunity to return to a sense of kind of a slower pace in some ways, though we've been very, very busy. But that we've had, for example, the opportunity for my kids to speak daily with their grandparents. And that kind of calls some very important lessons for me around family engagement and around co-teaching, which is of what we're doing right now. We've reached this place of we are officially teaching from home in collaboration and with families. And that needs to be our focus, and it needs to be our focus in the most equitable manner possible. And that just causes me to reflect a little bit. So I just wanted to read a little bit from a couple of the books that I'm taking learning from and keeping me grounded during this time. The first one is They're There. And it's a relatively dark book, so I'm going to read it first, even though I would normally have probably read it as the second order. And he starts off with a quote from Bertolt Brecht, actually. In the dark times, will there also be singing? Yes, there will also be singing about the dark times. Getting us to cities was supposed to be the final necessary step in our assimilation. I'm sorry, that's not where I want to start. Plenty of us are urban now, if not because we live in cities, then because we live on the internet. Inside the high rise of multiple browser windows, they used to call us sidewalk Indians, called us citified, superficial, inauthentic, cultureless refugees, apples. An apple is red on the outside and white on the inside, but what we are is what our ancestors did, how they survived. We are the memories we don't remember, which live in us, which we feel, which make us sing and dance and pray the way we do. Feelings from memories that flare and bloom unexpectedly in our lives like blood through a blanket from a wound made by a bullet fired by a man shooting us in the back for our hair, for our heads, for a bounty, or just to get rid of us. And then the other book that I've been reading from is The Home Place by J. Drew Lanham, who's one of my newest favorite authors, who's actually I always struggle to say it, ornithologist. And in both of these instances, there's just this really fascinating link between technology and a return to what we know ancestrally and what we know in terms of family, and so therefore apropos for this time. And he starts off his chapter in The Home Place, Life's Spring. High technology has done us one of performing simple and primordial tasks: chopping wood, building a fire, drawing water from a spring. That's actually a quote from Edward Abbey. And he says, Drew Lanham starts his chapter, water cleans, it purifies. It is the substance from which life itself crawled to become us. Edgefields creeks, Stevens, Turkey, Chevs, Horns, Shaws, Dry Branch, some ruddy and rocky, others sandy and foamy, are at this very moment tumbling and flowing to feed the mighty Savannah River and the Atlantic Ocean beyond. In some places, the perpetual motion slacks in backwaters, swamps, sloughs, and beaver marsh. And others, the flow is stemmed by humans playing God, creating lakes that bring cheap electricity and recreation to the millions downstream, demanding both. From clouds and rainfall to streams and creeks, lakes and ponds, the sea, and back again to the heavens, water is the lifeblood of us all. As enticing as creeks can be, as aspiring as lake sunsets are, water more humbly born is where it all begins. In seeps and quiet oozing, this water works its way upward and outward from unseen aquifers. Deep beneath the Piedmont's crust, it flows like a circulatory system. We grew up drinking spring water that was sweet, cool, and nothing like the tainted stuff that spurted obscenely on push-button command from school fountains. There was something in that water, filtered through treatment facilities and made safe by a cocktail of chemicals that just didn't taste right. Our water at the Home Place came from a perpetually dark and dank little bottom, just a buck's bound or two down the hill from Mamatha's house. Its first and most efficient water was clay, loam, and leaves. The soil and litter leached in natural chemicals. The network was simple, built on leak-prone black pipes. The water moved at the urging of moody, underpowered electric pumps. There was a great deal of hope in the system, too. Hope that the occasional deep freezes wouldn't be enough or long enough to stop the flow. Hope that the thaw wouldn't reveal leaks. Hope that droughts wouldn't drain the supply. Hope that the pumps would function reliably. Hope that the sweet water would always be there. Thank you for listening to that. And I hope, like I am, that as we struggle with some of these technology-based solutions that are keeping us all connected, that we're also all taking time to rejuvenate in the simpler connections that we have to this Mother Earth and to one another and to our ancestors.
Thank you, Director Hampson. That was beautiful. Director Harris.
Let me first say how much I miss seeing the smiling faces of my colleagues and of our really, really hardworking staff. This this has been rocking my world in a very, very big way, both in terms of gratitude, also in terms of, frankly, some not very elegant behavior on behalf of some of our governmental partners and or our constituents. But, we get up every day, we work as hard as we can, and we try and do better on behalf of our 54,000 students and the families of first responders. And my heart hurts for those that have died and those that are currently suffering in a huge way. I've got first responders in my family, and I worry about them. But we're going to do the best we can do. And this country and this city have been through terrible times in the past. And I'm hoping that folks give each other grace. And I look forward very much to seeing y'all on the other side. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Harris. I couldn't agree more. Director Hersey.
Hi, I'll keep these very quick. Just an immense amount of gratitude to all the work that everyone has been putting in. I'd also like to read a quick poem that I've been reading pretty much every day since this whole situation has unfolded in new and ever more confusing ways. And I'm actually sharing this with my second graders and their families, and have gotten some really great feedback from it, and I hope that you find as much comfort in it as I have. It's a poem called "And the People Stayed Home" by Kitty O'Mara. It was written in 1869 and was reprinted during the 1919 pandemic, actually. And I think that some of the best works withstand the test of time. So it goes like this: And the people stayed home and read books and listened and rested and exercised and made art and played games and learned new ways of being and were still and listened more deeply. Some meditated, some prayed, some danced. Some met their shadows, and the people began to think differently, and the people healed. And in absence of people living in ignorant, dangerous, mindless, and heartless ways, when the danger passed and the people joined together again, they grieved their losses and made new choices and dreamed new images and created new ways to live and heal the earth fully as they had been healed. Thank you all. Stay well. My best to you and yours and your families. And I look forward to seeing you all, hopefully in a non-socially distant manner soon.
Thank you, Director Hersey. That was really beautiful. Director Mack, I'll let you take it away.
Yes, thank you. We are in an unprecedented situation with everyone staying home and school buildings closed for the rest of the year, and the stress and anxiety and opportunity that we're under it's really massive. It's a complete shift of how we live, a lot of loss of routine, a lot of shifting of responsibility. Lots of families are on top of each other with people working from home at the same time that their students are trying to work from home. And I just want to acknowledge for all of the families and educators and everyone that's trying to work through this new normal, that it's not easy, actually. We're all struggling with trying to find the new normal and manage in this situation. And I have 3 kiddos at home, as well as managing this work, and a husband that has an incredibly stressful role in his work. And it's hard. And I really want to actually acknowledge that for families and students, that it's okay to recognize that it is hard. And I'm really grateful for all of the work that the district and educators and everyone is putting into supporting our students and families in this time. The contact directly with educators has been massively helpful. Having educators schedule time to meet with students and create some routine, massively helpful. The fact that our counselors at the buildings are accessible. There's lots of information that's been pushed out. And I hope that students and families are finding that they can access that information and access those resources. I appreciate that the district recently changed the website so that the homepage provides a bit more easy access to those resources. And as other directors said already, I miss seeing everyone's face, and so I'm deeply grateful for the fact that we are ramping up in a situation where we were not anywhere close to prepared, but we're ramping up to integrate the Teams platform so that families can meet directly with their teachers, and that those have been going on. And even though it's remote, being able to see each other's faces is really, it's meaningful, and that connection is really critical. So I'm glad that that has gone forward, and that we're moving towards trying to get those technology resources out to families, and appreciate that that's all. But it's a huge lift. It's massive, and it's happening. It's just massive. So I appreciate all of the work and thought and all of the partners that have come on board to help support. And I also, as a planner, I'm also concerned about what's going to be happening in the future, and that we as a board have a responsibility to the entire district and public funds to continue moving forward in critical work like the facilities planning and building projects, etc. So I just wanted to bring to folks' attention the operations committee agenda that actually has some things that the public and fellow board directors may want to be aware that the conversations are going to be happening. One policy that's actually going to be introduced and discussed is the parent guarded administration of marijuana for medical purposes. This is a law that was actually passed, and it is a required policy that we need to update per those laws. Additionally, we are going to be having the capital budget, the annual capital budget for next year presented. And I look forward to a robust conversation. I think in light of this current COVID situation, that perhaps some of that budgeting suggestions may need to be shifted given the reallocation of the resources that we have and around technology. And so I'm curious to know, we'll be having a conversation about what's the projected proposed budget at this time, and hopefully have some kind of sense of whether or not the current situation is going to impact next year's budget. We're also going to have a conversation around enrollment and capacity process planning, because we're still in the middle of enrolling for next year, and we need to continue moving forward with those. I already mentioned earlier that Rainier Beach High School Community Outreach is a topic of discussions. We'll get an update on the planning around that, as well as an update around any kind of changes that have need to happen to our bidding in the various construction projects. So I really am eternally grateful for all of the staff and folks that have been continuing to move forward with this work in the midst of the crisis. We're in the midst of having to pull together an entirely different way of doing things and manage family and everything, and the work does still go on. And so I appreciate that everyone is bringing their best game, and thank you all. And as the governor says, wash your hands.
Thank you, Director Mack. Great reminder. Director Rankin.
Yeah, hi. I was just hearing some pretty serious yelling upstairs from my second grader. So if he starts again, just pretend you don't hear him. So that being said, these pretty nonstop, and I keep kind of flipping back and forth between being very existential and also the mundane and the everyday and the business, and also between uncertainty and fear and anger and gratitude. And I think, just from talking with friends and seeing other community members, I think there's a lot of that. There's a lot of up and downs. There's a lot of good days and bad days, and appreciations and frustrations. So something from the sort of more everyday, immediate business from the curriculum and instruction viewpoint is tomorrow the state, a lot of people are wondering about what's required, what does grading look like right now, what does attendance mean, and how are we getting seniors to graduate? And so I just wanted to share. Board of Education is having a meeting tomorrow that is focused on adopting emergency rules for credit earning and graduation. And that will help us as a district firm up our own rules around what grading looks like, and make sure that our seniors are not going to be negatively impacted, and then they can graduate as planned. So that is a piece of information that will be coming. I know that for a lot of families, the uncertainty has been frustrating, and the seemingly continual changes have been frustrating. And I was saying in an email to a parent earlier today that it's that way. It feels that way because it is that way, because we're kind of building the plane as we're flying it. That every day brings something new, brings a new challenge. Situations change. At first it was we were going to be 2 weeks out, then 6 weeks out, and now that we know we are going to be out of buildings until the end of this school year, in some ways that offers us some more certainty in planning, and we can kind of set more concrete goals, knowing that the rest of this year is remote. But I also want to acknowledge that in addition to figuring out what does school look like and grades and everything, that I guess I just want to acknowledge that with that relief and kind of concreteness of yesterday's announcement also came the loss of end of school year traditions and recognitions and activities that a lot of students and teachers and families look forward to. and really are kind of defining moments in the life of a school student. And, you know, the biggest one of which, of course, is graduation for seniors. But there's also, you know, fifth grade moving up and middle school and these kind of celebrations and traditions that are the memories that we, you know, that we hold on to in these in our K-12 experience and our children's K-12. I just wanted to kind of acknowledge that there is a sense of loss there, and then that's a real feeling. I think, you know, we're dealing with a global crisis, and of course people are sick and losing loved ones, and that's huge. But there's these other losses that are very real losses, and that I hope that as we're working towards figuring out, you know, grading and getting everybody online, that we're also, at least it's on my mind, and I'm just hoping it's on other people's mind, finding ways to still have some of those traditions and community celebrations. Obviously, they're going to look really different, but I just wanted to acknowledge that sort of sense of loss that I think a lot of people are dealing with. And then also this sort of flipping back from existential to mundane, I'm thinking a lot about what school is, and trying to see this, even though this challenge, also as an opportunity for us to really confront what we think the essentials of school are, what things we know haven't been working that we could now maybe readdress with this forced pause in business as usual, how we can to the strategic plan and our values as a district, and how we can use this as an opportunity to reimagine a student-based system, a flexible system, and honor the relationship between educators and students, and what that would look like if we really centered that. Yeah, I could go on between all of the various things that have been happening in my head and in my house lately, trying to balance my role figure out what my role and responsibilities are as a board director 4 months into this role. This is certainly not what any of us expected or signed up for. It's not in the job description, but we're here, and I want to thank my fellow directors and district staff for the way that we all have pulled together as much as we can to respond to the ever-changing situations and just kind of do the next best thing that we can do with the information that we have at the time. And I know that's really tough on families, and we're just to do the best that we can. And I appreciate emails and comments that we've been getting about what's happening in school communities. I'm also trying to balance my role as a parent and now a instructional shepherd at home. But I also, my kids are spending, I feel really fortunate that we have a safe home and a yard. My kids are spending a lot of time outside, and the weather is something that I'm really, really appreciative for right now. And I hope that everyone's able to take a moment to just get outside and absorb vitamin D and just good warm sun, feel the good warm sun on your skin. And I want to finish out by just doing a shout out to our educators, who are, many of whom are going just above and beyond in what they're trying to do to reach families and continue teaching. And also I want to acknowledge the loss for teachers of the rest of their school year that are really dedicated educators. This is their work. This is their one of the main, you know, purposes of what they do every day, and that's been forever altered and taken. And so just thank you for still continuing to put our students first. And yeah, we will just keep going. That's it.
Thank you, Director Rankin. Director Rivera Smith.
Hi. Yeah, no, thank you. I'm so glad we've had this chance to hear from our board directors sharing a great mix of logistical information, thoughts, and some really captivating passages. I will also try to do a little of both. I want to start by sharing an update from early learning, which has played an instrumental role along with Dr. Keisha Scarlett's team in SPS's offering of childcare for those on the front lines of the COVID-19 response. As Superintendent Juneau shared earlier, we are hosting 16 sites, one of which still has openings. In fact, some sites are actually at risk of closing due to having no children attending. Those are at Salmon Bay, Bagley, John Marshall, and Graham Hill. So we just really urge families who fall into the essential workers category, which also includes families experiencing homelessness or caring for foster children, please visit the SPS homepage, which has recently been redesigned also for greater usability. So you can look there and find a childcare link at the bottom right-hand corner of the page. It's in a gold boxed link that says childcare. And the only site missing from there right now is the Tiny Tots at Wing Luke, which opened just yesterday. So otherwise, each site's contact information can be found there. And other COVID-related news from the department, the Federal Office of Head Start is soliciting information from grantees like SPS in regards to our desire or ability to offer summer learning programs for our Head Start children to make up for the time that they've been losing due to the school closures. Once the federal office gauges the need nationwide, they plan to offer opportunities for grantees to apply. So our early learning department is meeting with community Head Start partners, providers to see how we can work in alignment. And we do plan to express interest, and we'll be responding by the April 13th deadline for that. So along with just the home learning offerings that they're putting out there, I am just really want to give my thanks and gratitude to our early learning department and Director Heather Brown, who, like many of us, is home caring for her children and everything else that life is throwing at us right now. So just phenomenal work coming out of them. And again, just really thankful for what they've been able to put out. I also, for the personal side, I'll go ahead and just share something that I actually posted up and wrote up early this morning, very early this morning. Just thinking about all the changes we're going through right now and the closing the schools and how much it's weighing on our families, parents, and students. So I'm going to read here what I had written. It said, yesterday's news is still sinking in, and it's okay to cry. From sadness, just know and let your children know that it's okay to be sad and mourn the loss of life as we had known it. Even for kids who weren't necessarily in love with school, it was still a reliable constant in their lives and one which they deserved to enjoy and finish out with their peers. Our collective lives have been upended through no fault of our own, and we're feeling the way parents especially hate to feel, powerless. We always look for ways to guide our children through life's hardships, but this is one ship no one wrote a guide for. For fifth graders, eighth graders, and most of all our seniors, there will forever be a missing piece of their stories, chapters that will never be finished. That last day on March 11th came and went without the closure they were due. Goodbyes went unsaid, and almost no one took the time to ingrain images into their memories. What was supposed to be 2 weeks is now the rest of the school year, which means it wasn't just instruments and notebooks that got left behind. Expect tears of regret. If you have a senior like mine, you know how lost they're feeling right now. A dozen years of school were lived, not always with ease, but always with the promise that if they labored through, the payoffs would be events they'd hold dear forever. Senior week, prom, walking the stage at graduation. It remains to be seen if any of these might someday, in some way, be offered to them, but it won't be the same. These rites of expect tears of anger. But most of all, don't expect too much. Patience and resilience won't come easy for either of you. The losses can feel overwhelming, and experiencing them with fewer shoulders to lean on means finding a new appreciation for those we live with. For everything this crisis has taken away from us, we'd be remiss not to recognize what it has given us, the chance to appreciate all the things too often we took for granted. Things like our teachers. We could never replace you, and our attempts to do so haven't always gone very well. We appreciate our frontline workers, yes, our doctors and nurses, but also our grocery store workers, delivery people, childcare providers, custodians, and sanitation workers. Thank you for keeping society from shutting down. We appreciate smiles. There's one behind every mask, and we can't wait to see them again. And as we discover all of the comforts and heroes that buoy us through these times, don't forget to add yourself to that list. Your focus on the health and well being of your children and family will. And when we finally make it to the other side, because we will, the life changes we're making today will equal lives saved tomorrow. It's still okay to cry. Expect eventual tears of relief and joy. So thank you for this opportunity to speak, and to everybody for tuning in. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Director Rivera Smith. And I just have some brief comments as well. And first, I just want to share my gratitude. I think, our daily calls with SPS and directors, Hampson and myself, we always start with gratitude. And so me, I know that for the over almost 100 years, our institution has operated pretty much the same. A teacher, an educator, a physical classroom, students, school lunches, buses, and textbooks, for example. COVID-19 presented a great challenge that I believe SPS has risen to in this moment. And in just 3 short weeks, SPS has opened 16 childcare sites for first responders per the governor's directive. We have an agreement with our educators union. We have meal delivery on buses. We have 26 meal sites providing breakfast, lunch, and soon working with Fair Start to provide dinner as well. And across the city, we're feeding roughly 5,000 students and families each day. And just as you heard earlier from Superintendent Junot, we provided roughly 12,000 paper learning packets. And we've created daily lesson videos on SPS TV. And for example, that's on Channel 26 on Xfinity and Como TV. And we're working with 26 mental health providers on crisis care and telehealth counseling for our families. And in the last week, if you've been paying attention to the news, we've identified not only laptops and devices for our middle school and high school students internally. We're also really grateful for the conversation that took place last week and the partnership for the 8,200 laptop device donation from Amazon. And that's just a snapshot of what SPS has accomplished in this unprecedented moment in just a few short weeks. And so I'm really, really grateful for their hard work in pivoting so quickly. But today, my message is mostly just want to quickly speak to not my concerns or issues I'm having as an adult, but today my message is specifically for our young students, more than 54,000 of you who are a part of the Seattle Public Schools family. I know some of our older students, especially seniors, though worried about prom, graduation, and grades, are also still asking how they can help their families and their friends who are struggling with affording rent, internet, and food. So keep showing up as the leaders we believe you are right now. If you're one of the lucky few students with parents in a home, consider yourselves blessed. If you have all of your needs met, then this time is way easier. There are so many of our neighbors and your fellow students who don't have it so easy now. 40% of our neighbors have no more than $400 to their name. Imagine how difficult it is to lose a job and have only $400 left for your entire family to survive for now almost 60 days. But see, I know you as young people understand it because you understand the nature of this crisis, because I've heard the countless stories, maybe hundreds of stories about your beautiful acts of kindness and compassion and care for your neighbors and community. And what I want to tell you right now is that it's okay to grieve too. There is something powerful about naming grief. It helps us feel what's inside of us. Many people have told me in the past, or I cried last night, but you feel it and it moves through you. Can you hear me? I think I cut out. Okay.
Now we can
Well, I
hear you.
was just-
It's been
thank
quiet for a
you.
while.
Thank you. All I was just wanting to finish to say was that right now it's okay to grieve too, and I know obviously directors have shared this as well. The thing is, when you name it, you feel it, and it moves through you. Emotions need motion, and that's okay. The things are going to be challenging for a bit, and the way you imagine things for the next bit maybe not be what you planned. That some of the best learning happens in your school, but this whole experience is reminding you that this rare moment and the lessons you learned from this experience, such as what's important to you, what you're grateful for, what it means to be a leader in your family right now, how to care for others, resourcefulness, creativity, and resilience, those lessons from this collective experience will shape you for the rest of your life. So take heed and learn from what's happening around you and work to make the world better by responding to these grave threats with your usual hope and innovation and compassion. You have already. Just keep doing it. At 2:46 p.m.
You cut out. What did you say? Zach?
I think you said we're adjourned.
Okay.
Ah.
No. Okay. No. We're adjourned. We're adjourned.
I forgot to
All right.
say my ninth foster dog is being adopted today. Ninth, not counting the litter of puppies.
That's really
Congratulations.
All right. See you later.
Okay.
Be well.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so there being no further business before the board, the regular board meeting is now adjourned at 2:47 p.m. And apologies for my sound.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you all.
Stay healthy.